Wait.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, so here's what we're going to do today. So you already have this paper glued into your notebooks, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so before we get started, what I want to do is, I want to make a list of something that we've been talking about. So let me give you some white space here.
Will we have to write something down?
You will. So let's get some white space here on the board. Alright, so we've been talking the last couple of days about some things. And a few days ago, you made in your notebook a list of things that said something about what good readers
Talk about.
There you go, talk about. So I'd like for you to flip back, it should be a couple pages back. Flip back to that list.
No way.
So we've been talking about more good things that what good readers are looking for, and more good things that readers who are strong, good readers talk about. So I'd like for us to add some things that we've been talking about the last couple of days to our previous list. Okay? So keep your finger on that page and look at the charts from the last 2 days. Keep your finger on your page here where you have your list and look at the 2 charts from the last 2 days. What kinds of things have we been talking about?
Reading between the lines.
Okay, so we've been talking about characters here.
We already have characters.
Right, but specifically what with characters here?
Struggles.
But what's in our chart? We did talk about struggles before. What's in our chart from the last 2 days? Characters, events. Yeah. How they change.
Flaws.
How they change.
Events.
Events?
No?
Yeah. Look at some of the headings on those charts. What are you seeing?
How do they relate to the what?
How does the character reveal himself?
There we go. So if you're listening, I'd like for you to clap once. If you're listening, I'd like for you to clap twice. Okay. So we've been talking about specifics in details, in events, but we're specifically talking about a category that is characters. How they reveal themselves. So I'd like us to add that to our list of things that good readers talk about. So right now I should see you writing with your pen or pencil and adding this to your list. And I do want you to write something above this word. The word reveal means show. So even if you heard that word, I'd like for you to write it above there so that it's familiar to you when you look at it. So when your worksheet or your chart or your neighbor or I say, the character reveals themselves in a way that I need you to understand what that means, that it means show. Okay? So characters, how they reveal themselves to us. We've been looking at that. What else have we been looking at specifically, the other chart we have?
How the narrator gives us, is he doing something, is he showing a
Can I help you?
specific feeling that the character is
Good. So
showing, or
you're getting all the information we have here. How he or she, the narrator, gives us information. Is that information a specific feeling? Is that something about another character? Exactly. So this is some new information that we need to add to our chart. So if you have already added this to your chart, raise your hand. Okay. So there's one more thing that we're going to talk about today that I'm going to have you add to this list. So you don't need to write anything yet. Wait for me. So just watch what I put up here. In books, when you have a timeline of events, the time goes like this, straight through. But we don't get all of the pieces. We might get a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, and then they might tell us, next Thursday, the next event happened. And there's a whole bunch of information in here that we're...
Yeah, that didn't happen because it's not so important.
Maybe
Because
it's
the
not so-
narrator doesn't want us to know or
To
mystery
Exactly.
or...
Maybe it's not so important, like Angelo said. Or maybe he doesn't want us, or she doesn't want us to know something yet. Or maybe it's about creating suspense or tension for the reader.
Maybe it's like the narrator doesn't want us to focus on that, but focus on something more important.
Exactly. So the thing is that good readers talk about and notice these things, but another thing that good readers notice and talk about is the timeline of a story. The timeline of a story and what is in empty spaces and why. So this is something else that the good readers that you are going to be talking about. So when we think about a timeline of a story, as you guys already said, maybe there are gaps in things because A, it could be boring and we don't need to know that much about it. Or B, it could be something that they don't want us to know yet as a narrator. Or it could be something that provides suspense. So let me give you guys an example. If this is my timeline, let's pretend something that could realistically happen in middle school. Let's pretend that there is a girl, and she meets a boy who comes to school. Okay? So, this is fairly realistic here. So, we have a girl meets a boy. Oh, they meet in class. They instantly are talking and chatting. Then, the next event is that they talk outside in the hallway. And they don't see each other again until lunch, but that's pretty close. Then, what do you know? He's on her bus, and they chit-chat. And it turns out he gets off at her bus stop, and she sees him walk to the house next door. So, they have a lot of quick things happening together, right?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be very, very
But the next day at school, she doesn't see him all day long. Dun, 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 dun. So, why do you think, well, let's talk about first what. What do you think is happening in this empty space here that the reader should be noticing about one of these two characters? That either for her, what she's like, or something about him. Angela.
He maybe is too shy to go to school with her.
So maybe we're learning something about this character being shy.
Yes.
Maybe.
Or maybe that.
Or another emotion.
Or maybe a sickness, or he
he
got sick, or a problem.
Okay, so maybe we have an event that has kept him away, some sort of a conflict
Conflict. Yes.
that's kept him away. If you're listening to this, thank you. What about for her? What might we be learning about her?
Can I say about him?
Give me 1 sec, we'll come back. What might we be learning about her?
That she likes the guy.
Yeah, because what's she going to be doing in this event, this
Thinking
time
about
period that
him.
we are supposed to imagine?
Thinking about him.
Worried.
So maybe she's worried
Daydreaming.
or daydreaming.
And she's impatient.
Okay, maybe she's impatient to see him again. So it turns out, folks, in our little timeline here, he comes back the next day and says, oh, I had to get my root card or something with my visa because I just moved here. Okay. So,
Sorry.
I'm waiting for you guys. So, what was the author's purpose of this empty space for us?
Did she worry about him?
That she worries to give us what else, Dylan?
Suspense.
Some suspense or to build tension, like,
What is going
where
on? What is happening?
What's happening? Okay, and you guys,
Accident over.
here's the thing. That leaves the reader a little bit confused and leaves the reader to build ideas in their own head. And I know you guys probably have had this in movies where that happens, and it's kind of frustrating, but don't you kind of like it? You're like, no, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I hate it at the end of the book.
When they leave
Yes.
you like that, maybe. But during the story, it's to build this emotion. Vicky?
Maybe he's an imposter, like he's doing something else there, like a whole other story.
Possible. We have to look for other clues. So the thing is, we have to have something. So, I'm going to wait again. We have to have something that we already know in the story to give us realistic clues. So you guys came up with realistic clues. Okay, maybe there's an event or conflict that kept him away from school. He's sick. Maybe we're supposed to be noticing, maybe he's shy and doesn't want to see her. Would it also be logical that maybe he has
An
an
accident.
Because
has an
he's
accident,
new.
has something to do because he's new? Okay. Would it also be logical that she's either worried or daydreaming or impatient to see him?
Yeah.
Okay, if they've had good conversation, for sure. What's not logical to go in here might be something like, an alien came and took him away. Okay?
That's what happened.
Because do we have, on the limited information
So
that
I
we
had
have,
to go to Mars, visited my family.
I'm going to wait for you guys. On the limited information that we have, Was there any mention of outer space or alienness?
No.
No. So you've got to use the clues that would be logical,
Realistic.
realistic, okay? Especially
What if-
since right now we know that we are studying realistic fiction. Now, if we were studying science fiction, might it be logical that you would think something sciencey or from outer space or something a little bit different might happen than realistic fiction? Sure. But we know right now we're studying realistic fiction.
Oh yeah, that. But what if the reader wanted to like throw us off, and like
Usually they would drop a little seed of
And throw
something that would throw us off that you could look back later and go, oh, they mentioned that and I missed it.
Yeah, like
Because it would be awkward to throw us off with nothing.
yeah.
Okay, so there's got to be a little tiny clue, even if you don't notice it till the second or third time you go back, that's in there. Angela?
yeah, like for example, like the seeds that you said, it might be like she finds in the way back to her home, she finds like a clue, like the phone of the guy found
Yes,
on the floor.
there would be some tiny little clue or something. So we've got to use,
That wouldn't change the.
right, we have to use things that make it logical, okay? So what we're going to do now is, we've got these 3 new things added to our list of what good readers talk about, right? So I'd like you to flip over to the chart that you glued in today, which is in fact about timelines and missing scenes that you could imagine. Okay, so the next activity that we're going to do here, we were looking at a bunch of information that we knew for scenes, right? And we were imagining what happened in the middle. So, could you also have something that happened before or after these that you didn't know?
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at a clip, just one quick clip, from the Lord of the Rings movies. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's actually probably better. If you have seen it, you have to separate yourself from that and pretend that you haven't, because I don't want to hear, well, this is what's going to happen because I've seen it. Okay? So we're going to do just one practice one with this, and I want you to be thinking in your head, what might have happened just before or just after this that would be logical based on what we're seeing. Okay?
Can we turn the lights off?
Yeah, okay.
I'll do.
Okay,
Thanks,
folks.
Andrew.
Angela, would you do it? Here we go.
I didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
Enough. See what?
White shores. And beyond. The far green country. And a swift sunrise.
It isn't so bad.
No. No, it isn't.
Okay. So what I want us to do right here is, Angela, would you get those lights for us again? All right. So we've got, and that little one by, there we go. And that little one, is that little one by itself
Yep,
too?
it's
Okay.
on.
I think maybe I'll out one. So what we've got here is, we have a scene happening, right? But we don't really know what happened before or after. Now, did you notice that there was some stuff in the background happening?
Yeah. they're
What
like
was
in
that?
Large pushing.
Yeah, there was a fire and explosion there, okay? So we know that he's kind of sitting on a wall and there must be something going on in the background that's a battle.
Yeah, he's scared or something.
Right.
Maybe they're hiding.
So, yeah, we don't know everything about what happened before, but think about this. What kinds of things that happened before this could we imagine that would be logical based on the clues? Or what kinds of feelings do we know could have been occurring over here?
Maybe a siege had begun.
Okay, so some sort of a siege.
Like, there's like a walled city or just a city, and then this army comes and attacks the city to take over it.
Okay, because there's an army and a wall that we've seen in here, so something's happening with that.
and maybe they got like overthrown, so they're trying to hide until they can like.
Okay, so there
Fight
could be an
back.
overthrow, there could be some hiding because of the way we see this character tucked down. Okay, what else?
He could be protecting him. Like I know what actually happens, but
Don't say it all though.
yeah, but that character could be the main character, and then the
The young one and the old one.
yeah, and maybe one of them's trying to protect the other.
So here's the thing. This is an interesting one
Maybe.
because we have some visual clues with the way this character looks, the way this character is physically described or shown. But we also have some protection, and I want you to think about the words that were said. Okay? Let's lead that to talk about what might be happening afterwards. When we think about the words that we heard, I didn't think it was going to end like this. And then the older character says something about it doesn't have to
Yeah, it's,
be like this,
he's
and it's not so bad. No, it's not so bad.
he
so-
tries to comfort him.
So we know afterwards that there maybe is something comforting coming, right? Does that conversation between them end negatively or positively? Positively. So there's something comforting or a positive
Yeah, then he smiles.
outcome. Aha! And we have a smile that is our clue here, and we have the dialogue that is our clue here.
Oh, and then he talks about at first he talks about the first bit is like really bad, and then after it gets better.
It gets better. So we must assume if they're really bad, maybe in this situation that
Maybe
we're seeing.
it's a symbol.
Maybe it is for something that's going to change or get better. What else could it be? Anything else you guys want to add to this?
Because he was talking
A
about.
clue?
A clue about something that's going to happen, positive or negative later?
Positive.
Okay, so a clue
At the
about
end.
something that's positive to come. Jill?
Because he was talking about death, and they're quite close to that. So maybe, and he was talking about like how death kind of is. So then, that maybe it's a symbol of like right now it's really bad, but then it gets better because it's. He said that it's like a white beach with a sunrise.
And he said, oh, that's not so bad. No, it's not. So here's the thing. You guys, maybe you don't know, maybe you do know. But for the sake of this argument, you probably don't know everything that's going to happen right before or after. But we're using our clues as good readers to think about what's happening in these missing spaces and to figure out why this story is told like this, okay? Does it create some tension for us or some concern about what's going to happen if we don't know every little event? If we've got spaces between, does it give us a chance to wonder as a reader? Yeah, and that's kind of good. It makes us think, ooh, 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 ooh. And that keeps the story interesting on our side, in our perspective. So what I'd like to do next is, yesterday and the day before, we had a short story called The Pin. Good, you remember it.
The Pin.
The Pin. So I'm going to pass these out.
By Chris.
Chris Crusher, right. I'm going to pass these out right now.
I'm a rook.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what we've done now is we have this story that you guys have already read, that we've already been talking about with all of our charts and examples. I'd like you to flip over to where it says page 38 and 39. Just flip it there and keep it there. Flip it there and keep it there. So I'd like you to take a pen or a pencil out, because I'm going to have you label some things on here. So I've got page 38 and 39 up here in front of me on the board. And we've been talking today about time lapses or spaces in stories where there's a change in the scene, there's a change in the setting, where we don't really know what's happening before or after, or maybe in the middle of those two. So on here, between these two pages, can you find the way that it might look on a page when there's a time lapse and a setting change? Alec?
A paragraph like this.
Yeah, there's a space between a paragraph. So here's a good one that Alec just pointed out. So what I'd like for you to do right now is take a pen or a pencil and lightly mark that on the paper, just like I did. So I should see you using a pen or a pencil right now. There you go. And actually, there's another one on this page.
Yes.
Can you find it and mark it?
Mm-hmm.
Joe, you want to tell us?
There's 2 more.
Oh, there are 2 more. Where might they be?
After if Marilyn only realized. in
There we
between
go.
those, and then
After
after
what?
Coach is right and I get serious.
Okay. Okay. So we actually have 3 on this page. Now, does anybody know another way that they might look if there wasn't a space right here that we might notice as a reader?
And it might have like a dot, dot, dot.
Uh-huh. They might have a dot, 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 but there's different ones that we call dot, dot, dot. So if it looks like that, that's called an ellipsis, and that might be at the end of a sentence. Usually when you have them between a scene, they're little asterisks like this.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've seen those in books before. Okay, those are to show you that a time is passing and changing the
Can we do
scene.
those?
You can do it. And usually you see those maybe when it's that the space would occur between a page. So you see at the top or the bottom. Raise your hand if you've just now realized what those stars might be for on a page. Several of us, yeah. Because if you don't know, no one tells you, it might take you a while to figure that out. So that's why we're looking at things that good readers do. We notice the time lapses and how they look and why they're important. Yes?
Sometimes I also have like a squiggly line.
Sometimes they do, like that?
Yeah.
Yep. So what I'd like for us to talk about now is, imagine the timeline of this story. If this is our timeline, we have all these things happening. We know what happens before. We know what happens after. What we don't know is what's going on in that middle space. So I'm going to have you guys take another minute just now to kind of reread what was happening here, reread what's happening just after it, and try to figure out what's going on in here. So let's talk about this first, and then we'll write some things. Step 1, 1 minute of silent reading to refresh. Step 2, we'll talk about it together, and step 3, we're going to write some things. Okay? Start your 1 minute now. All right, so basically we have to figure out what might be happening in this time space. So first, what was happening up here, right above it? Vicky.
He was telling like how he hated and loved his dad.
Yeah, he's talking about like, I don't like my dad,
And
and
at the same time I do.
right, but I love him too, so I feel like this. And what kind of activity was he supposed to be doing? Push-ups. So he's supposed to be doing his push-ups. And then over here, when we skip this, what's happening in the next part? Where is he?
In school.
He's in school.
Class.
So it's the beginning, good, the beginning of the day at school. So we have a several hour time period here. So what are some things that could be happening in this space? Yeah.
I kind of thought that the last sentence is I must be out of my mind, and then the first sentence is dialogue. So I kind of felt like it would like snap him out of like.
Maybe. Well, I think you're on a good idea here, because he must have been like thinking about things and needing to be snapped out, because she asks about the game and he's like, big game, huh? What?
Yeah.
So he must have been thinking about some things. So right in here, maybe we have him doing some thinking, some serious thinking. About what, do you think?
About the
Dad.
About Dad? What about it, Dad?
Reading and
wrestling.
We don't have any of that happening yet, though.
No, it's about the
What do you think?
love-hate.
Yeah, thinking about Dad's, his relationship. Okay? And why would he be spending a lot of time thinking about that? How does he feel about him?
I guess it's important about him.
Yeah,
Because
so
he's confused.
he's confused. Love, hate. And it's important to him to figure that out, but is it also going to be important to the reader?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And at
Okay.
the end he decides.
Right, so we know because we've read it, but can you see now that they leave it here for him to think, but also for who to think about?
Us.
For us to think about, okay? So, what do you imagine
We
he
have to
might,
underline and do beginning of
No.
day. It's
it's okay. What do you imagine he might be
I
doing?
did all of that.
It's okay. What do you imagine he might be doing while he's thinking? What does his action or his time look like here? What are some possible logical things?
Push-ups.
He might be doing push-ups during this. What's our logical clue about that?
Says
says.
But
It says that he has over 1,000 to do. Okay, what else might he be doing there?
homework, because then it goes after school.
Homework, because our clue is that he goes to school the next day. Anything else?
And maybe he's like just daydreaming. Like,
Yeah, maybe he has some you guys ever lay in bed and just kind of wonder things before you go to sleep and your head's turning? Raise your hand if that's happened to you. All of us, right?
And it's the worst when you think of creepy things. Just
What, right. So he's not even thinking creepy things, but I think he's probably having something roll in his head about his dad and his relationship. So maybe it's night, and he's doing some thinking in bed. Okay? Obviously, he's going to have to sleep between night and morning. Okay? If he hadn't slept all night, how would we know that?
would be tired.
He'd be tired. Do they mention him being tired here?
No, he's like, okay.
Right. So
but
he's
after
been thinking.
But after doing all those push-ups, he must.
Right, but we would have gotten a clue if he hadn't slept. They would say, the author would say, I'm tired, or I was tired, or the narrator would say, he was tired, or I was tired, or I didn't sleep all night, or they would talk about bags under his eyes. They would give us a clue, and since we don't have a clue, it can't be something logically that we would think about, okay? All right, so what we're going to do next is, I'm going to have you guys look at the chart in your notebook that I had you glue in today. So the chart that you glued in today.
Oh, we need to finish yesterday's chart.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we do.
No,
We didn't
maybe I need to
finish
look at yours. I'll look at yours in a minute.
No, yeah, we do.
Okay. Okay, let's see. This one right here. So this is what you have glued in your notebook already. So we're going to do The Pin by Chris Crutcher. And we're going to do together the one arrow we just talked about, and I'm going to show you how it would look as you do it with me. So it says just after blank or just before what occurred. So what was happening in our situation? He was doing what?
Push-ups.
Okay, so maybe it's just after, where did he get the push-ups assigned to him?
That.
Where?
Dinner.
When? Just after dinner
Right.
with the push-ups assignment. And just before what?
Sleeping.
Before bed or school, first period or English, whatever. Okay? So we're trying to figure out what was in here. So we have to label just after what and just before what. This is between these two scenes that we didn't have any information specifically given to us. So during that time lapse, we're going to talk about an imagined scene. I imagine that blank happens during the off time between these scenes, which is logical because. So we listed several things and talked about it. I'm going to have you right now pick one that you imagine, that you think about the best, that could have happened, and tell me why that's logical. And we just talked about it, so these should be really fresh in your head. So I'm going to give you guys about 30 seconds to do that. Fill in that part just like what. Okay, so some of the things I'm hearing that I heard you guys saying, maybe we would choose. I imagine that he does his homework, but is still thinking about their relationship during the off time, which is logical because why? Why is that logical? Why would that be logical, Vicky?
Because the day after that he went to school.
Okay, because he had school the next day, and why would it be logical that he's stewing over this relationship? Yeah.
Because what he had just said, like that he hated.
Yeah, so he's concerned or confused about the he and dad relationship. Okay? Now your next little note down there says, what's the author's purpose in putting a time lapse here for the readers? Why is there a time lapse?
Because it's not important.
Think what happened maybe.
So that we can think just like he is thinking, oh man, he really likes him. Oh man, he doesn't really like his dad. He loves him, he hates him.
To think the decision he will have.
To
Decide.
think about, is this an easy decision?
No.
Yeah, to think about this difficult decision for the character. the character's thinking, but we're also thinking. And to show us that he needs some time. If it was an easy decision, he would not have been thinking about this all night. It would not have taken, a time lapse where he's thinking about it the night, and he still doesn't know what she's talking about when he asks about the game in the morning. Huh, what, big game? Huh?
Again, the author wouldn't write such a big paragraph explaining about if he likes
Right.
his dad or not. So
There
he
wouldn't
would
be
like,
all of that surrounding it, right? There wouldn't be information up here and then confusion when she starts talking to him about a game. So we know he's been thinking. And we know, oh, wow, this whole little time lapse he probably has because he doesn't even know what she's talking about with the game when she brings it up. Huh? What? Oh. Okay? So your job now is you're going to do the same
What about
thing
the
that you
second
just did. What?
But-
For this one?
Yeah.
You're going to do the same thing you just did right here for one of the other two arrows on your sheet. So, decide right now which one you want to do, and you need to read a little bit above it and a little bit below it to understand what's happening. You're going to do this one right here, just like we did here, but on your own. And then we're going to discuss it at our tables. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what's happened now is that we have filled out our information here. I've checked you guys. You talked about this with your group. What I'd like for you to do is start on this part. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we've done. We're going to think about the timeline and what's happening and what about the pieces in the middle between scenes that we don't know. And we're going to do that for the novel that you're assigned for my class, the one that you've been given that you're sitting in groups for right now. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to talk about a spot where maybe something occurred and then there's a time lapse for a different scene, different setting. Something's changed. Okay? And then you're going to tell me the imagined scene. What's logical that could be happening in there? Why do you think that? And what do you think the author's purpose is of that? Why did they put a time lapse here? Because of this, because of that? That's your job to figure out. You're going to do the same thing a second time with a different time lapse, a different situation, again. So this is about your specific book anywhere. It could be between paragraphs in a chapter. You could have the little asterisks in there between pages or between chunks. You also could have between two different chapters if you want to look at one chapter's end versus another chapter's beginning, as long as there's a time lapse and changes in what's happening between the two. Okay? So your job right now is to start that. You can start working on this one right here or looking for the first one with your group, but you may or may not have time to finish both. So I would look for one with your group to talk about and then get started on your own to finish.